Do you constantly run around and feel like you're overwhelmed or overstressed? I do that from time to time. I know a lot of people do. And I've got a couple of resources that I recently came across that I think will help us sort of reframe some things, but also get inside a little bit and kind of analyze why we are like we are.
Welcome to the Warrior Mindset Podcast. We're your guide as you make your way through life, getting better 1% every day. We believe that life is lived and true victory won through adversity. Nothing easy is ever worth it. We believe in the warrior ethos and support those that choose to walk that path.
So, this first one here is this TED Talk that I came across from Dr. Daria Long, from crazy busy to ready mode. And there's some really good stuff here. I think you should, I'm not going to really play the thing, but I think you should go and listen to this, and we'll link it up in the comments in the post here. But she goes through a couple of things that, can kind of help shift some of this frenzied, stressful, like overwhelmed vibe I think some of us carry around a lot. She is a emergency room doctor, I believe. But one of the things is this concept of busy. These folks. Maybe you're one of them. I'm subject to this once in a while, where people are like, "How's it going?" And you're like, "Busy." It's like we love to be busy. We love to be working. We love to have more stuff on our plates than we can handle. That's just like maybe in America too. It's just like this thing that we like. We carry it like a badge of courage. And being overwhelmed is not a badge of courage. It's not a badge of honor either. It's actually pretty detrimental to your mental health if you stay in that, uh, you know, fight or flight mentality too long. So one of the things she talks about is crazy busy isn't just a phrase, right? She explains how that term or that thinking can affect your brain, and it actually increases stress because you're identifying with being a stressed out or an overworked individual. You are becoming what you think, right? She links this phrase to a mode where stress hormones rise, executive function declines, and areas of responsible for anger and anxiety are activated by living this phrase. So, we want to really shift from crazy busy to ready mode. And that's what the slide here is about. And she kind of breaks that down in the talk. So, shifting from this identifying thought or, owning this crazy busy concept to ready mode, um, instead of reacting to every challenge with stress. This shift can help us sort of embrace a more organized and calm approach, right? Shifting from like I'm in crazy reaction mode to like I'm in ready mode. I am here. I'm here to do the thing, and I'm bringing my professionalism, my skills, and everything to bear on this work that I have to do. And I will work on this until I'm supposed to not work on it, and then I will go and then come back and do it again. Right? It's more of a when you think about an emergency room doctor. I know you've watched those TV shows and stuff. They go to work and it's intense, but then they go home, right? And I know a lot of it's dramatized and it's intense at home too, but it doesn't have to be for you. So I think that's kind of the approach. Um, and if you look at some of this stuff here, crazy mode, overreacting to everything, ready mode, relentlessly triage, and we'll talk about that in a second. Crazy mode, unprepared, thinking ready mode, expect and design for crazy, right? So you are mentally attuned for the onslaught of what's coming. If you are like, I'm on now. Crazy mode, derailed by inner monologue. Ready mode, get out of your head. Okay, so let's go through some of those, right? Triaging and prioritizing, right? So she's an emergency room doctor, and you think about people coming into the emergency room, and you have to triage. You have to pick the ones that are the most injured or the most sick and do those people first, right? So you're you're triaging, you're prioritizing by urgency of thing, right? That can help you manage stress, right? So she talks about categorizing your task into red and yellow, right? Like red, immediately critical. Like if I don't do this right now, bad things are going to happen. Yellow, it's serious, but like nothing, no one's going to die if it's a day or two. And then you've got the third, green, which is minor, which those can come on or be, handed off to someone else or whatever. Um, it helps you sort of quickly put things in order. And I find that, whenever I'm coming into a client situation myself, and there's lots of things that we have to handle, I will triage. I will do the ones that are the most important, or the client's the biggest pain in the butt, or whatever. I will do those first. And then I have a second level and then a third level. And often I don't even get to the third level. They just kind of eventually get done, or they get offloaded to someone else or whatever. Design for simplicity. In the video, she goes through some tips on reducing daily decision making. Like there's lots of things you can do, like planning meals ahead, so you don't have to get home and think about dinner. Automating things where you can, automating tasks where you can. Keeping your tools, your essential items in one place, right? Those are all techniques that doctors, physicians, whatever, do to help lower that cognitive load, right? So, prepare for what you're going to do. Like treat your job, treat your thing that you're entering into like a professional would, and that's going to pay dividends, right? And then the last one she went through was getting out of your head. You have to get out of your own head. You can get like tunnel vision on certain issues and overly focus on something that maybe isn't as important as something else. And you can also sort of catastrophize things if you're in your own head too much. She suggests focusing on others to disrupt negative internal monologues and widen your perception. Doing that helps you make better decisions, right? And we've talked a lot about that kind of stuff on other episodes of the podcast here. And, I think you should definitely go give this one a watch. It really, so this next video, I've started listening to this guy, Dr. K. It's on this channel, Healthy Gamers, which I think started out as something and now it's become something else. Dr. K is a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I'm not sure. I think psychologist. He's also a monk, or was a monk, or lived as a monk, or whatever. He's very insightful, and I found him through some YouTube shorts. Kind of started popping up, and I did some, watching of his videos and stuff, and they're pretty darn good. And you should go listen to this guy. But in order to set up the next thing that I want to talk about, this Medium article that I found on questions to ask yourself, for like high performers or whatever. I wanted to play this bit about high performers here, and something that I struggle with that this video in particular really helped open my eyes to. So I'm going to play some of this.
That we're going to start with is sociopathy. So one of the really interesting things is if you look at psychiatrists and surgeons, we test higher on the sociopathy scale than the average population.
I think that sociopathy, the concept goes into the triage approach that we just sort of went over. I think the ability to, and what he's going to talk about is your ability to feel empathy and knowing when to act and when not to act, knowing when to help and when not to help, to not get overly bogged down into helping, etc.
So let's understand a little bit about what sociopathy means. It doesn't mean that we're evil, right? So there's a lot of features to it. What sociopathy means is that we have the ability to restrain our empathy.
Super important, managing your own empathy. If you give too much of yourself away, right, there's nothing left to give, right? It's sort of like that thing you've heard it. I know you've heard it, where if you're in an airplane and something happens and the oxygen mask come down, you should put it on yourself before you help someone else, right? It's that same sort of concept.
We don't get bogged down. So when I'm a psychiatrist and I have fucking depressed people walking into my office every single day, and I spend 8 hours a day listening to their problems, I must put up some kind of empathic shielding in order to not get bogged down by this. And this manifests in people who are very successful in a very specific way.
That empathic shielding, that idea really hit home with me.
They are very good at not getting suckered into short-term compassion and instead leaning into long-term compassion.
So that right there is really opened my eyes, thinking about like my empathy and how I give to someone, really running it through that filter of like, is this really short term? Like, is this just for me? Is this for my own little ego or my dopamine or whatever? Or is this empathy that I'm extending really long term, helping someone?
So I'll give you all an example of two people in my practice. So two of them had a very similar situation. When they turned around 17 or 18, something happened in their family. One parent basically left the household. They had two younger siblings each. It's crazy how similar these two cases are. One person leaned into short-term compassion, made the sacrifice for their family, and was like, you know what? The right thing to do is to not go to college and help raise my two siblings because my remaining parent can't do it all by themselves. The only choice that I have is to do the right thing. So this person didn't go to college, got kind of stuck in a menial labor job. And then 10 years later, like even their siblings were not doing great because now you have this culture in the household of like not achievement, but survival and all this kind of stuff. A lot of struggles later on.
Interesting. I wonder if you know any people. I certainly did after listening to that. I know several people who made these sacrifices for other people in their family or whatever, but then ultimately, like none of them did well. I mean, in terms of like high achiever, CEO brain type.
In the alternate case, we have someone who decided that, you know, like, yeah, it sucks that this is happening, but what I really need to do is like, if I really want to provide for my family, I need to leave them behind. I need to go to college. They worked incredibly hard in college, got an amazing job. So this person grew up incredibly poor and then, you know, got an awesome job and is now making literally millions of dollars a year about 10 years later. And the other super cool thing is that this person now serves as a positive role model for their younger siblings.
So that's as far as I'm going to go, but that is really thinking like
so their
long term,
younger siblings,
you know, thinking long term, how that empathy and that helping, like where are you placing it and where are you actually helping someone, right? And having the ability to not feel guilt, I guess, over it. You know, because that's one of the things that I kind of struggle with is that, you know, concept of like, you know, sometimes I feel guilt over not actually helping people or feeling like I'm, you know, not helping someone, but it helps me put some of that in perspective in terms of like where I put that need to support someone. All right. So I wanted to touch on those things a little bit before this last Medium article here, which I thought was pretty interesting. It comes off a little cheesy with the, you know, the title or whatever, but it's a good read by Moreno Zugaro. 5 simple ways to level up your thinking. Everything you think, do, and achieve is rooting in one thing: your beliefs, right? He opens with some shifting here. I can do this versus I can't do this. This will make me feel good versus this will make me feel bad. I have to impress them versus I'm enough as I am. Shifting that inner monologue. And I talk a lot. We talk on this podcast a lot about how you talk to yourself, how you frame your thoughts. You know, take it as you will, but it really means something in the way that you project yourself into the world, right? This quote by Gandhi: your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. That's how like little things can then build and really grow you mentally, and then actually in the material world can become real. Right? So like the whole point of this is that not all your beliefs serve you though, right? You really have to break those things down and begin to engineer your thoughts, right? So this first one here, how to realize your true power. and I highlighted this thing. You are the creator of your reality, the God of your universe, the maker of your experience. Like, look, man, no one is coming to save you, right? You have to understand that you create your own future. I know there's lots of discussion about, where you are. And I'm not trying to be, Mr. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I mean, I'm not talking about that sort of stuff. I'm talking about the smaller daily ins and outs, reasons why you succeed or fail at your tasks, right? You either defeat yourself before you begin, or you set yourself up for success before you begin. You can only do one or the other, right? So think about those things. Think about how you approach things, right? So this question, if I could choose what I wanted it to be, what would it look like? So before you go into anything, be it a new job, completing a task, meeting a goal, a relationship, whatever, ask yourself, if I could choose what I wanted it to be, what would it look like? Like, create that thing in your brain, in your mind, and then think about how I get it there. Like, what would it look like if it were a success? Like, that's one of the questions we ask people when we start new projects at one of my companies too, is we will say, if this project is successful, what does that look like for you? And we actually, we force them to answer the question. I mean, we write that down and then we try to reach that goal. Uh, it's overlooked a lot of times. I mean, if you're trying to lose weight, think about, like, if I lose the 10, 15 pounds, whatever goal I set, what will my life be like after that? And then write those things down and focus on those things. You want those things. That is the truth you can choose. All right. This other section here, humans suck at assessing reality. We have a thing called confirmation bias. Yes. So in, it's like, what does this, like, begin to become reality? Like, you ever, like, gotten a new car and then all of a sudden you see lots of other cars or vehicles that look just like yours? You know, if you're looking for failure in something, chances are you will find it, right? If you're looking for success in something, chances are you'll find it because of the mindset shift that you're in, right? But then there's a flip side of that, which is called confirmation bias. So in martial arts, or in like, let's say, self-defense, we have this concept called training bias, right? It's the same thing, confirmation training, whatever. It's that you are most likely to go to the tool set that you have trained the most, or that you like the most, or that you feel the most comfortable with, should you ever need to deploy those tools, like specifically in a self-defense situation. Or, honestly, if you think about the way you do your day-to-day job, you probably deploy the tools that you have the most command over, right? That are the easiest to deploy first, right? So you have this sort of confirmation bias. The same thing goes in experience, right? You're going to deploy the experience that you think you have on something, right? Even when being wrong would be something good for you, right? So the best way to break the cycle is to ask yourself, what evidence do I have that contradicts this belief, right? So you should always be looking for evidence that contradicts your beliefs. So if you are like, and I will give you an example of this in particular. One thing I've learned in coaching people in martial arts is to never underestimate someone and to never also overestimate someone. I can't count how many times someone comes in and they are absolutely just in great shape and athletic, and they seem like they have their life put together. But then after just a few short weeks, it is very evident that they do not, and that they cannot carry on, that they cannot reach these goals that they've publicly said that they want to reach for themselves, in that realm of martial arts, right? So I will often see someone come in, and the flip side of that is that equally do I see people that I would think would not be really good at something or would not last a long time, have done both. They become very good at it and they have never left. And I attribute that to the fact that they had to work for, they've had to engineer things and work for things and convince themselves of things constantly to get to that point versus someone who like naturally, can just like walk in and do all the things without really trying. They're eventually going to hit that wall. So just like that, when I see someone and I think, oh, this person's going to be awesome, I begin to look, and that might sound negative, but I begin to look for these signs that maybe not. And as a coach, so that I can begin to address those things, much like I do when I see someone who's maybe not as, physically adept or as fast as someone else. I look for the things that maybe they could do well, and I help, coach those things and try to bring those things out of people so that they can lean on those things and really grow, right? So look for evidence that contradicts what you believe, right? It won't hurt. Your ego won't like it, but that's the whole point. That's the thing. Whenever you feel like your ego is getting a little bruised there, that's your key. That's when you should dial into that. Okay? This other thing relates to the thing Dr. K was talking about, I think, and that is, this at first sounds really shallow, but just to realize that everything you do has a payoff, right? Even if it doesn't serve you in the long run. So, like the author says, when I believed I wasn't good enough, it became a convenient excuse to evade pain, right? Everything has a payoff, whether it's positive or the opposite, a negative, right? So the example is, I didn't raise my prices with my clients, so I didn't have to face more rejection or deliver higher quality. I'm going to highlight that because I want to come back and think about that one a little bit more. Your limiting beliefs have a payoff, even if it's just the comfort of staying in the safety of your old patterns. Let that sink in for a minute. Ask yourself, what's the hidden payoff I get from believing this? Right? Maybe it allows you to be lazy. Maybe you avoid doing hard things. Maybe you evade fear of rejection. Maybe you evade feeling like you're looking bad in front of other people. Whatever, right? So what's the hidden payoff? But you can also flip this as well and look at it in terms of, expending that empathy on someone, expending yourself to helping someone. What's the payoff I'm getting from this? It doesn't necessarily mean you're being shallow. It just means you're being honest. There's only so much of you to go around, right? So like he says here, everything you do has a payoff. Choose the one that serves you most. Whether you're fighting your beliefs, fighting reframing your thoughts, or fighting overextending yourself in helping other people or whatever, right? Yeah. So the last one is to sort of attack that confirmation bias or whatever. And this one, your ego is not going to like this one, but just a simple question. What if what I believe is completely false, right? Just entertain it for a second. What if you think you know for sure about work, dating, health, life, and your coworker annoying Aaron was wrong? What if things were different all the time, but you didn't realize it, right? And I do this subconsciously, I think. Doesn't mean I'm like awesome or anything. It just means like, I think this works, is that I get in these ruts where I'm like, everybody's stupid, like nobody knows what they're doing, and I'm the only, professional person in the room, and I kind of like, for me, I've learned that's sort of a trigger to stop and think like, well, maybe it is me. Maybe I need to take ownership of this and look at it a little bit deeper. Like, if if one of the coaches at the gym isn't quite doing what I expect of them, I first have to ask myself, did I explain what I expected? Did I train them to the level that I want them to be on? Did I write it down? Did I communicate it properly? Have we even talked about it? Like 9 times out of 10, there's something you could have done, right? So I think it's okay to address the thing with the person, but it helps you not address it in a way that makes them 100% seem like it's 100% their fault. It helps you address it in a way that's like, look, we're working on this together. This is what I would like you to do. That's how I'm addressing it. Not that, hey, you suck. You didn't do this right. Right. That's just not very helpful. That's just one example where, what if what I believe was completely false? That can also be in, that confirmation, attacking that confirmation bias. It can also be in, um, having me extend that empathy to someone else. And when I say that, when I say extending empathy, I mean guilt, basically. Like, if you don't do a thing, you feel bad about it, right? Um, and then the final part of this, which I thought was a cool add-on, was that, um, the author's talking about don't try to drop all your limiting beliefs all at once. Evolve, so work on them. So it's not that you can just go cold turkey and switch things around. It's that you need to practice these things, right? So to make leveling up easier, I asked myself, how can I reframe this belief in a more empowering way, right? So his examples: I'm not good at sales became I'm learning to get good at it, right? I have no sense of style and fashion became I can try, experiment, and get inspiration from others. I don't know how to solve this problem becomes I can find necessary information, right? So I don't know something turns into, hey, I don't know it, but I can go research, right? It's a little more empowering that way. It's kind of sets you up for success in the future. Okay, so that was a quick one. I thought those were pretty good. It's been some things that I've been working on myself, and this was just, I think, some timing that I wanted to pull some stuff in and go over it, and hopefully it helps you. Hit me up with how you might be working on changing your beliefs, your limiting beliefs, making them not limited, or where areas where you've discovered maybe that you have some confirmation bias and some things. I think it's super helpful to audit that every once in a while. So let's all do that. And until next time, get after it, y'all.